Well, after all the huffing and puffing, threats of legal action from the EU, and many MPs whinging, including some Conservative MPs, the UK Internal Market Bill MPs voted for it last night, although one person noticeably didn't. The former Prime Minister, Theresa May, abstaining on this vote. I'm going to bring you all the very latest in this report, but you please start off by remember to click subscribe and the bell so you don't miss future reports. I'd really appreciate it. Yes, so the House of Commons yesterday approving legislation that gives ministers the power to override elements of the rotten EU withdrawal agreement, despite the threat made again this week from the EU of potential legal action. The UK Internal Market Bill, which ministers acknowledge could break international law, was approved by 340 votes to 256 and now goes to the House of Lords for debate. And what a difference. Of course, you'll remember in the previous Parliament, the carnage, the Brexit blockers doing everything they can to delay Brexit and stop it completely. Now, of course, what you're now seeing is the pro-Brexit majority in the country having given Boris Johnson, the Conservatives, that mandate to deliver. They're able to pass this by, as I say, a huge majority, 340 votes to just 256. What a difference as well in terms of the Prime Minister, because as I mentioned, one of the Conservative MPs that refused to vote for this and had sort of spoken out against it before, Theresa May, the former Prime Minister, one of the Conservative MPs deciding to abstain. But before we get to her, I just thought I'd mention the Labour position on this, because of course we had Ed Miliband representing the Labour Party. I mean, I'm not sure how much of a good look that is for the Labour Party. Let me know what you think in the comments about Ed Miliband. Whinging before this vote, saying the Internal Market Bill is indefensible. It breaks international law. It is wrong and self-defeating for our country. Tonight I urged MPs to oppose it. The difference now is the hardline Remainers, the Labour Party, of course, in terms of parliamentary voting arithmetic, are completely outgunned because the pro-Brexit majority, the Brexit Party standing aside, of course, in Conservative-held seats, has given Boris Johnson the ability and the votes in Parliament to actually have a much stronger diplomatic and negotiating stance for Brexit Britain. Of course, it depends on how you then use that. But this is, I think it's always important to reflect on and remind you that this is why voting matters, because now we are in a completely different place in terms of the parliamentary arithmetic than before. And if some people like Ed Miliband want to whinge about it, it doesn't really matter, because they will just get outvoted every single time as long as Conservative MPs hold the line. Now, Jacob Rees-Mogg highlighted this result afterwards, saying an excellent result on the UK Internal Market Bill. It passed on third reading by 340 to 256 votes. Now, the Times Radio's chief political commentator, Tom Newton-Dunn, pointed out that, true to her word, Theresa May did not vote for the Internal Market Bill tonight. 21 Tory MPs in total didn't, including 2 former Attorney Generals and former Northern Ireland Secretaries. Some Cabinet Ministers slipped, so it looks like 15 plus rebels abstained on the 3-line whip. So there's a 3-line whip there as well. Now, pairing, just to explain, there are sometimes there's an understanding put in place for some MPs who are not going to be there. So it's not as simple sometimes in terms of abstaining to say, well, the person that abstained simply didn't want to vote for it. So for an example of that at the moment is Dr. Liam Fox, who we know is away campaigning to be the new Director General for the World Trade Organization, something, of course, that I've highlighted on this channel. And guys, let me know if you've seen that reported elsewhere, the fact that he's advanced in that process. I've not seen much coverage of that at all. So it's not fair to say that simply anyone that's abstained, particularly when you look at some of the ministers that have abstained because they disagree. It's merely perhaps because they're in a different part of the world or whatever. But what we can say, and what has been confirmed, Tom Newton-Dunn looking at this again, confirmed by government sources, that Theresa May broke a 3-line whip to abstain. First former PM to rebel in 32 years since Ted Heath in 1988, he says. 13 pairs and slips. So in total, eight Conservative MPs rebelled. Theresa May, Geoffrey Cox, the likes of Jeremy Wright, I think Karen Bradley, Caroline Noakes, and there may be a few others. Quite an unbelievable thing to think about this, that Theresa May was one of very, very few Conservative MPs that abstained, that absolutely refused to vote for this Internal Market Bill. And yet not that long ago, She obviously was Prime Minister, and she was obviously the one effectively negotiating and deciding upon the UK's position. Doesn't it just show you the remarkable turnaround we've had in terms of what's happened? You know, we're in a far better place now than we were. But it just reminds you, I think, that Theresa May, as I said, one of the very few Conservative MPs still now refusing to vote for the Internal Market Bill. Not that long ago, she was Prime Minister. Unbelievable, isn't it, when you think about it? And the Conservatives pointed out afterwards, just to show you the strength of feeling in terms of how important this was in terms of the UK's negotiating position and the government's point of view. The Conservatives tweeted just afterwards saying Labour just voted to side with the EU once again. By voting against the UK Internal Market Bill, which will guarantee seamless trade between the home nations of the UK, they've shown they won't stand up to Brussels or protect the United Kingdom from the SNP. Now, this isn't the end of the story, because this is now going to head to the House of Lords, Parliament's upper chamber. The reports are this expected in early December, so it's not going to happen immediately. But of course, as we know, that place is absolutely packed to the rafters with very, very hardline Remainers who, if they can, try and do what they can, I'm sure, to mess this up. How much they can do, let's wait and see. But as the reports point out, you know, Boris Johnson does not have a majority in the House of Lords, and the revisions to the most contentious clauses are likely to have some strong support in the House of Lords. But that's where we are. And don't forget, guys, something else that I think's been ignored is that we saw, of course, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and we saw Lord Frost warn of these potential threats of a food blockade from the European Union. And since the Internal Market Bill came in and sent shockwaves through Brussels, we actually now hear that the EU and the UK feel reassured that actually the EU won't be doing that. So, you know, people like Ed Miliband and Theresa May, I don't think have the first clue about how you negotiate. And I think the much more robust stance taken by this government already has been shown to be the right thing to do. However, must keep an eye on what deal now is being negotiated with the EU. We do not want to see a last-minute betrayal on fisheries. We cannot see the UK signing up to EU rules under their so-called level playing field. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as ever. But yes, the UK Internal Market Bill, MPs have voted for it, 340 votes to 256, but with former PM Theresa May, one of those Conservative MPs who abstain. Let me know what you think about this as ever, guys, and if you have enjoyed this report, please click the thumbs up button, really helps me out. Click subscribe and the bell so you don't miss future reports, and of course you can support my work on Patreon. But as ever, guys, thank you very much for watching.